They said the surgery was routine. They lied. The real shock came when I uncovered a deadly hospital cover-up and my wife's betrayal. You won't believe what happens next. I'd been having problems for months. Nothing major, just a nagging issue that I thought would eventually sort itself out. But it didn't. So, I decided to see a doctor. They told me I needed an operation. It was nothing serious, they said. Just a minor procedure. The kind that people go through all the time. I believed them. I trusted them. I had no reason not to. They were the experts, after all. So I booked the surgery, prepared myself mentally, and walked into that hospital feeling like everything would be fine. But the moment I woke up, I knew something was wrong. The pain was unbearable, far worse than I expected. I thought, okay, maybe this is normal. Maybe this is part of the healing process. But as hours passed and the pain didn't subside, something told me I needed to ask more questions. When I tried to speak to the doctors, they smiled and assured me everything had gone according to plan. But their eyes told me something different. There was hesitation. Something they weren't telling me. They kept saying it was all normal. But it wasn't. Days went by, and I kept suffering. The pain didn't let up. I was in and out of the hospital, seeing different specialists, getting more treatments, but nothing changed. That's when I started piecing things together. The operation had failed. They'd messed up. But they weren't about to admit it. The doctors tried to cover it up. The hospital was covering its tracks. Every time I asked for answers, they gave me vague responses, brushed me off, or sent me to someone else. I could tell they were hiding something. The more I pushed, the more it became clear they were protecting themselves, not me. I didn't know what to do. But I knew I couldn't just let this slide. I decided to file a lawsuit. I figured if I could just get the truth out there, they'd have to own up to it. But the hospital? They had resources. Lawyers. Connections. The moment I filed, I was facing a wall of legal firepower that I didn't stand a chance against. The case dragged on for months. Every step of the way, I felt like I was sinking deeper. The more I tried to fight, the more my resources were drained. I couldn't afford the fees, but I kept pushing. I couldn't afford the treatment anymore, but I kept going. All I had left was this fight. But in the end, I lost. The hospital had won. They covered up their mistake. And me? I was left with nothing. The bills piled up. The payments for my treatments and legal fees were taking everything I had. My house. My savings. Gone. I was on the verge of bankruptcy, and there was nothing I could do. I had nothing left to give, except one thing, a lawsuit that I was sure would bring me justice. But that wasn't the end of my downfall. No. The real shock came when I found out that the woman I had trusted, my wife, Lisa, was hiding something from me too. One evening, I came home early from a visit to my lawyer. I was tired, defeated, but still clinging to the belief that something would work out. When I walked into our home, everything felt off. There was an odd tension in the air, something I hadn't noticed before. Lisa was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. She didn't greet me when I walked in. I thought nothing of it at first, but something was wrong. The house felt too quiet. I put my briefcase down and went to the living room. It was empty. I started walking down the hallway, toward the bedroom, but that's when I heard it, her voice. Low, hurried. She was on the phone. I tried to stay quiet, but I couldn't help overhearing. It was enough to stop me dead in my tracks. I don't know if I can keep doing this, she said, her voice trembling. I didn't need to hear more to understand what was happening. I had felt it, something had shifted between us. But this? This was a betrayal, the kind that would change everything. I stepped back, not wanting her to know I had overheard. My heart was racing, but I kept calm. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I couldn't. Not like this. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking. I had worked so hard for everything we had. I had sacrificed so much. And now, I couldn't even trust the woman I thought I could count on. I started thinking back, going over every moment of our relationship. The late nights she had been coming home late. The excuses. The distance. But it wasn't until the next morning that I found the evidence. Her phone. She had left it unlocked. And there it was. Messages. From someone named Mark. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. There was no denying it. She was cheating on me. And the worst part? She wasn't even hiding it. I confronted her later that day. And when she finally admitted it, I felt my world crumble. She said she had been feeling neglected, that I hadn't been there for her. As if that somehow justified her actions. Then she dropped the bomb. I want a divorce, she said, her voice cold, detached. I tried to fight it. I begged her to reconsider. I told her we could work through this, that we could fix things. But it didn't matter. She was already done. Lisa filed for divorce the next day. And she didn't just want to leave me, she wanted everything. She took half of everything I had left. The house. The savings. Every bit of property, gone. But it wasn't just the material things. It was the betrayal. The feeling of being blindsided, of having everything I'd worked for ripped from under me. I thought we were a team. I thought we were in this together. But I was wrong. And it didn't end there. She went on a smear campaign. She told everyone I was a failure. That I was the one who had let her down. She twisted the truth and turned our friends and family against me. One by one, they all turned their backs on me. They sided with her, believed her lies, and I was left alone. Isolated. Abandoned. It was the lowest point of my life. I'd lost my wife, my friends, my family, and all of my savings. The lawsuit, the hospital's cover-up, it had drained me, mentally and physically. I was living in a mobile home, surviving on whatever scraps I could manage to scrape together. I should have been grateful that I even had a roof over my head, but there was nothing in this world that made me feel like I had anything worth living for. I spent my days in a haze, barely able to lift my head off the pillow in the morning. But then, something happened that jolted me out of my stupor. I remembered. I remembered that I wasn't just a victim in all this. I had fought back before. I had fought for justice, and I could do it again. The hospital had failed me, yes. But they were also the ones who had buried the truth. The same hospital that had taken everything I had left. I knew it wasn't over. I couldn't let it be over. The hospital's secret. I started collecting evidence. Slowly, at first. I wasn't sure where to begin, but it didn't matter. Every document I found felt like a small victory. I'd make calls, request records, talk to former employees of the hospital. The deeper I dug, the more I realized how far they were willing to go to keep their secrets. I had no idea how far they'd buried the truth, how deep the rabbit hole went. But I was determined to find out. There was a whisper, a rumor about the hospital's past. Something they didn't want anyone to know. And it wasn't just about my surgery. It was about other patients too. I couldn't believe it. But the more I pieced together the puzzle, the more everything started to fall into place. The hospital wasn't just making mistakes. They were covering up something much bigger. A pattern of negligence that could bring them to their knees. But how could I prove it? How could I get the court to see the truth when everything had been hidden so well? I had to go to extremes. I hired a private investigator. I spent weeks tracking down witnesses. Whispers. Small-town gossip that could lead me to something real. I wasn't getting answers from the hospital, so I needed to dig in a way they hadn't anticipated. And little by little, I found it. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it, an email from one of the top administrators, detailing how the hospital had deliberately falsified patient records. It wasn't just my case. It was a systematic cover-up, dozens of patients, surgeries gone wrong, treatments botched, but all hidden under the guise of routine. I had the proof, the evidence I needed to bring them down. It wasn't just about my surgery anymore. This was about exposing an institution that had been getting away with malpractice for years. This was bigger than me. This was about making sure no one else suffered like I had. I could feel the adrenaline rushing through me. For the first time in months, I had a goal again. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was the one in control. I filed an appeal. The court had ruled against me before, but this time, I had them cornered. The evidence was undeniable. I wasn't about to back down. But they were prepared for me. They had connections, power, influence. They could throw all the money they wanted at the situation, and yet, I wasn't backing down. The hospital fought back even harder. They threw everything at me, legal jargon, loopholes, experts who were ready to testify that their procedures were within the industry standard. They had the best lawyers, the best consultants, the best public relations team. I, on the other hand, had nothing but the truth and the overwhelming weight of their lies. But that was enough. The appeal wasn't easy. It took months, and there were times when I thought I was going to lose everything. But finally, the judge ruled in my favor. The hospital was found liable for their negligence, and I was awarded damages. It wasn't just a win for me, it was a win for all the other victims who had suffered in silence. The money I received wasn't just compensation, it was a testament to everything I'd been through. I wasn't just getting my money back. I was getting my dignity back. With the compensation, I bought a new house. A luxury car. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. I didn't feel like a failure anymore. The weight of the world wasn't on my shoulders. But there was still something missing. It had been months since Rachel and I had split. But even though I had the money, the house, everything I thought I wanted, I couldn't escape the emptiness. It wasn't about the material things, it was about what had been taken from me. Rachel, my wife, had taken everything. And I hadn't realized just how far her betrayal ran. I remembered the little things she'd said to me during our marriage. The way she'd tell me I wasn't good enough. The way she would mock me, belittle me in front of her friends, act like I wasn't worth her time. All the while, she had been building a life with someone else. A life she wanted more than she wanted me. I started watching her. Little by little, I began to notice patterns. She would disappear for hours at a time, always with some excuse. I'm out with friends, she'd say. I'm at work late. But I wasn't stupid. I knew something was off. One night, I followed her. It didn't take long before I saw her, walking into a cafe with Mark, the guy she had been seeing behind my back. They were laughing, touching each other, completely oblivious to the world around them. That's when it hit me. She hadn't just taken everything in the divorce, she had also been living a lie. I stood there, hidden in the shadows of the cafe, my heart pounding in my chest. Watching Rachel laugh with Mark, her hand lingering on his arm, I felt a mix of fury, disbelief, and something else, sadness. How could I have been so blind? All those years of marriage, the time we spent together, the memories, they had all been a lie. The betrayal hurt, but it was the realization that she had never truly cared for me that cut the deepest. It wasn't just about the affair, it was the disrespect. The way she had let me work myself into the ground, all the while plotting behind my back. And the worst part? She'd taken everything. Everything I had worked for. Everything I had sacrificed. She walked away with half of it, and she didn't even flinch. I could feel the anger building inside me, but I didn't act on it immediately. I had to stay calm. I had to be smart. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind was racing. I couldn't just let this go. I couldn't let her get away with it. I had already lost so much to her in the hospital, but I was done being a victim. I had won the lawsuit, I had rebuilt my life with the compensation, but there was one thing I still needed, justice. I needed to make her pay for what she had done, not just to me, but to the life we had built together. I spent days planning my next move. The anger I felt wasn't going to be enough. No, I needed something stronger. Something more strategic. I couldn't just confront her, not yet. I needed to make her regret everything she had done, and I knew exactly how to do it. The first step was gathering evidence. Again. It felt like déjà vu, but this time, the stakes were even higher. I started tracking Rachel's movements, just as I had done with the hospital. I kept an eye on her phone. I checked her social media. I hired a private investigator to follow her, to document everything she did with Mark, everything she said about me behind my back. The more I dug, the more I realized just how deep her deception went. She hadn't just cheated on me with Mark, she'd been planning a future with him. They had already talked about moving in together, about starting a new life. She was already thinking about what to do with my stuff, our assets. And she had no intention of keeping her promise to me. No, she was making sure she got what she wanted, no matter the cost. Armed with the evidence, I took my case to court. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she had taken from me. The divorce wasn't enough. The financial settlement wasn't enough. I wanted more. I wanted her to know that she couldn't get away with destroying me and then waltz off into the sunset with Mark. The legal battle wasn't easy. I had to fight tooth and nail to ensure the court saw her for what she really was, someone who had used me, manipulated me, and left me to pick up the pieces. But as the hearings went on, I started to see cracks in her story. The lies she had told, the inconsistencies in her statements, they were all there for the taking. I just had to expose them. And then came the bombshell. I presented a set of emails between Rachel and Mark. They were discussing our finances, how she had planned to take advantage of my vulnerability, how she was already scheming for the future while I was still recovering from the surgery and the legal battle. These emails were the smoking gun. They shattered the narrative she had been trying to build. The moment came when the judge asked Rachel a simple question: did you intend to leave your husband and start a new life with Mark before the divorce was even final? She hesitated. Her eyes darted to her lawyer, who shot her a warning glance. But it was too late. The evidence was out there. The court saw her for who she truly was, a woman who had planned this all along. The judge ruled in my favor. I won. Everything that I had lost, everything she had taken from me, was returned. Not just the money, not just the house, but my dignity. The satisfaction of knowing that I had exposed her lies was priceless. But the story didn't end there. Rachel was furious, of course. She tried to fight back, tried to make me feel guilty for putting her through the legal battle. But I didn't care anymore. She had no right to try to manipulate me again. I walked away with everything I needed, my assets, my reputation, and the knowledge that I had finally fought for myself. With the money from the settlement, I didn't just rebuild, I flourished. I bought a new luxury car, a beautiful house, and even invested in stocks. I started living a life that I could be proud of. But there was still something missing. In the midst of all the chaos, I met her. Her name was Sarah. She wasn't like Rachel. She didn't manipulate me or try to use me. She supported me. She saw me for who I really was, not for what I could give her. We started dating, and slowly, she helped me heal. She helped me believe that there was still love, real love, out there. And after everything I had been through, I needed that. I needed someone who could show me that I wasn't broken. As time passed, Sarah and I built a life together. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust again, but with her, I did. She gave me hope. And then, she gave me 2 beautiful children, our children. For the first time in years, I felt complete. But then, just as everything seemed perfect, something unexpected happened. Rachel, yes, Rachel, showed up at my doorstep. She wanted to talk. She was crying, asking for forgiveness. She claimed she had changed. She said she realized she had made a mistake, that I was the one she had always wanted. But I wasn't fooled. Not anymore. I didn't give her a second chance. I didn't need to. The life I had now, the family I had built with Sarah, it was real. Rachel was nothing more than a chapter in my past. A painful chapter, but a chapter nonetheless. It was a strange feeling when Rachel showed up at my doorstep. A part of me wanted to slam the door in her face and forget she ever existed. But another part, a small part, wanted closure. I needed to know why. Why after everything, after all the pain, the lies, the betrayal, was she here, standing in front of me? She was crying. I didn't expect that. Her face was pale, her eyes red. The same woman who had destroyed my life now stood before me, asking for forgiveness. Her words were rehearsed, like she'd been practicing them in her head for weeks. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I've made so many mistakes. I know I hurt you. I wasn't thinking straight, James. I was angry. I thought I could do better. But I was wrong. Please. I need you back." I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, trying to process what was happening. My life had been shattered because of her actions. The divorce, the lies, the rumors, everything that had been taken from me. And now, after everything, she was here, asking me to take her back. I stepped back, crossing my arms. "You think you can just show up here after everything and expect me to forgive you? After you destroyed everything I worked for? After you." "I made a huge mistake," she interrupted, her voice breaking. "Please, James. I'm begging you. I've changed. I can't live with myself anymore. I need you. I don't want to lose you again." For a moment, I almost felt pity for her. But then, I remembered everything. The way she'd abandoned me when I needed her most. How she'd walked away without a second thought. How she had turned my life into a nightmare. And the man she had cheated on me with, Mark. "No, Rachel," I said, my voice steady but firm. "You don't get to come back into my life like this. You don't get to just rewrite the past because you feel guilty now. You made your choice. And I've made mine." Her face twisted with anger, the tears evaporating as quickly as they came. "You think you're better than me now? You think you can just throw me away? You're nothing but a coward, James. You've always been a coward. Always trying to fix everything, always pretending like you were the hero. You don't get to walk away from me like that." The words hit me harder than I expected, but I didn't flinch. I wasn't that man anymore. The man who let people walk all over him. I had fought back. I had rebuilt my life from nothing. "I'm not a coward, Rachel," I said, my voice low, "but you are. You were the one who cheated. You were the one who lied. And you were the one who left me to pick up the pieces of a life we both ruined. Not me. You." She stood there, staring at me, her eyes wild with fury. For a moment, I thought she might lash out, might try to make me feel guilty again. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I had been manipulated enough. "You should go," I said, turning my back on her. "This conversation is over." But Rachel didn't leave. Instead, she made a last-ditch attempt, one final desperate move. She pulled out a piece of paper, something I didn't recognize at first. "This is from my lawyer," she said, her voice tinged with arrogance. "It's a settlement. I want you to look at it. We can still make this work. We can still fix things. You can have what's yours. But I'm taking what I'm entitled to. Half. You can't take that from me. I glanced at the paper. It was a settlement offer. She was trying to get more money from me, more of what she thought was hers. Even after everything she had done, she still saw me as a means to an end. I couldn't believe it. After everything, she still thought I owed her something. After the affair, the betrayal, the lies, she thought she was entitled to more. Is this what it's all about? I asked, my voice quiet but cold. You think you can just come in here and demand more from me after everything you've taken? I'm entitled to it, she spat, her voice venomous. You think you can just take everything and walk away without giving me what's mine? I won't let you. Not again. That was the moment I knew for sure. She hadn't changed. She was still the same selfish, manipulative person she had always been. And no amount of money or apologies would ever fix that. I took the paper from her hand and ripped it in half. Goodbye, Rachel, I said, not even looking back as I walked inside and closed the door. The next few days were a blur. I tried to focus on my life with Sarah, the woman who had stood by me. The woman who had helped me rebuild myself, helped me find the strength to move on. We were building something real. Something I never thought I would have again. But just when I thought I could finally escape my past, something unexpected happened. Rachel wasn't done with me. She wasn't just walking away quietly. I started to get strange messages. First, it was an anonymous email, threatening to expose everything. Then, a few days later, someone left a package on my doorstep, a box full of old photos, letters, and mementos from our past. Things that she knew would hurt me. Things she knew would make me question everything I had fought for. I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. I had moved on. I had found happiness. But this was something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't need to speak to her again. I didn't need to let her back into my life. But I also knew that if I let this continue, it would eat away at me. So I took a step I hadn't expected to take. I hired a lawyer and filed for a restraining order. I wasn't just protecting my assets anymore, I was protecting myself. From her. From the past. Rachel would not get the satisfaction of dragging me back into her web. Not anymore. The weeks following Rachel's last visit were filled with tension, but also a sense of relief. The restraining order was in place, and with that legal barrier, I felt like I was finally free. Free from her, free from the hospital, and free from all the people who had turned on me. It wasn't just about getting back the life I had lost, it was about reclaiming my peace. But it wasn't over yet. Not completely. Rachel, despite the restraining order, kept trying to find ways to reach me. She'd send random emails, texts, even some weird postcards. But nothing could touch me anymore. I wasn't the man I had been when we first married. I had changed, hardened by the betrayals I'd suffered. Then came the ultimate surprise. One afternoon, I was going through some old legal documents when I saw a notification pop up on my phone, an email from an unknown account. I clicked it, and there it was, a recording. The video was of Rachel and Mark, talking about their plans. But it wasn't what they were saying that made my blood run cold. It was the fact that the recording was from my own home. They had been in my house. Watching me, listening to me, and laughing at my expense. My heart skipped. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle I needed to take them down. This wasn't just about my lawsuit. This wasn't just about the money or the revenge. This was about exposing Rachel for who she really was. A fraud. A manipulator. And now, I had the proof. I immediately forwarded the video to my lawyer. We filed for a new round of legal action against Rachel and Mark. This time, it wasn't just about the divorce settlement, it was about harassment, trespassing, and criminal behavior. The video was the smoking gun I needed. But the real shock came when we received a follow-up email from Rachel's lawyer, stating that they had been working on an amicable resolution and would like to discuss terms. I almost laughed. After everything, she wanted to negotiate? I had no interest in negotiating. No amount of money or apologies could undo what they had done. I didn't need her back. I didn't need any of it. I just wanted closure. And now, I had it. The court hearing was tense. I sat there, watching Rachel try to put on a brave face. She had her usual look, calculating, cold, pretending to be the victim, while Mark stood beside her, smirking like he'd won. But I knew something they didn't. They were both about to lose everything. My lawyer presented the evidence, everything we had gathered over the past few months. The emails. The recording. The testimony from witnesses who had seen Rachel and Mark together. And finally, the ultimate betrayal, how they had planned to steal from me, manipulate me, and destroy everything I had. When it was Rachel's turn to speak, she broke down. She cried tears that were as fake as her apology. She tried to plead for sympathy, but the judge wasn't buying it. No one in the courtroom was buying it. Not anymore. The judge ruled in my favor once again. I wasn't just awarded compensation for my suffering, but Rachel and Mark were both held accountable for their actions. They were ordered to pay restitution, and Rachel was barred from any further contact with me. For the first time in years, I felt like I had won. Not just a legal battle. Not just a fight for money. I had won my freedom, my dignity, my peace. The victory wasn't just in the courtroom. It was in my life. With the settlement money, I was able to solidify everything I had worked so hard for. I paid off my debts, invested in a few business ventures, and secured a future for myself. But more than that, I realized I was building something real, something that I had lost sight of for so long. That's when Sarah and I started talking about a future together. I couldn't have imagined that just a year ago, I would be sitting here, feeling like I had a second chance at life. But here I was, with Sarah by my side, and two beautiful children that we had raised together. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. And I was happy. As I sat in my new house, watching my kids play in the yard, I thought back on everything that had happened. The surgery. The lawsuit. The divorce. Rachel's betrayal. The loss. But I had learned something through it all. I had learned that life doesn't just happen to you, it happens because of you. The choices I made, the battles I fought, they shaped me. And in the end, I was stronger for it. And just when I thought it was all behind me, something even stranger happened. A letter arrived. It was from Rachel. A simple note with no return address. Inside, it read, "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know that I am sorry. I always loved you, James. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I ruined it. Please, just know that." I stared at the letter for a long time. For the first time since everything happened, I felt nothing. No anger. No resentment. Just a quiet understanding. She had taken her shot. She had done everything she could to destroy me. And in the end, it had only led her back to this apologizing for everything she had done. But I was done. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to acknowledge the hurt she caused me. I had moved on. I crumpled the letter and threw it away. And with that, I knew my past was truly behind me. My life wasn't perfect. There would always be scars from the battles I fought, the losses I endured. But every scar was a reminder of how far I had come. How I had turned my darkest moments into my strongest victories. And with Sarah by my side, our children, and a future that finally felt like my own, I knew that I was ready for whatever came next. Because in the end, it wasn't the losses that defined me, it was the fight to get back everything I had lost.